views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
BronxNet. Your voice, your views, your vision.
Coming up on today's verdict, we sit down with the administrative judge of Bronx County, Judge Douglas McKeon, as we discuss a new court initiative aimed at curbing medical malpractice costs. This and ways you can use court programs to help with the possible loss of your home. All this and more, so stay tuned, stay right here, we'll be right back. Today's verdict starts right now. Welcome to today's verdict, the show that gives you your legal rights and options. I'm David Lesch, your host and trial attorney for the next 30 minutes. The Honorable Judge Douglas McKeon has served as a justice for the New York Supreme Court and been assigned to the Bronx since 1990. He was also the host of Justice Corner, which aired on BronxNet, giving viewers a behind-the-scenes look at the Bronx County court system. Today, he is here to talk about some of the new and exciting ventures he has instituted in the courthouse. We at today's verdict are excited to welcome a great jurist and good friend, Judge Douglas McKeon. Welcome to the show.
David, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to see you again. Let's get right into the medical malpractice initiative. What made you think about it, and what is it?
Well, for several years, we have used some innovative practices with respect to the Health and Hospitals Corporation or municipal hospital system type malpractice cases. And really quite by accident, we found out Crane's, the business newspaper, actually had done a bit of a study showing that when we expanded the program throughout the city, it had saved $50 million in costs, malpractice liability costs. And basically what happened, at or about the time this came out, President Obama was trying to get his health care package through Congress. And really by way of almost an olive branch to the Republicans, he created a fund, $30 million, to study innovative ways to deal with malpractice cases. The Department of Health, who was our partner in applying for the grant, had suggested that we expand this to 5 hospitals here in the city, 5 hospitals that had unique profiles. And we were quite fortunate to be selected, really the first applicant to get a grant for the most money of anybody in the country, and the only court system.
Well, let's talk about this. Somebody has an issue with a particular hospital. It's a medical malpractice case.
Correct.
In the past, and I've seen these cases myself, you usually have to at least pick a jury, if not get into the middle of a trial, before you can somehow get money from some of the hospitals. What does your program do to change this particular scenario?
Well, that's a rare happenstance now. We find that we settle a lot of these cases. And let me just step back a moment and talk about what we had here in the Bronx. Right. Montefiore Hospital, which is not only the largest hospital, but the largest employer in Bronx County, was really facing a very, very difficult dilemma. 5 years ago, it was paying malpractice premiums in around the $50 million range. Today, it's about $120 million. That $70 million has to come from somewhere. Either jobs not being filled or programs not being initiated. All of this at a time when we're cutting back, we're seeing cuts in Medicaid, etc. So basically, we in the courthouse, because of this grant, were able to do some innovative things with Montefiore, Columbia Presbyterian, which services part of our community here in the Bronx, Mount Sinai, which is not too far south from our Bronx border, and 2 other hospitals, Maimonides and Beth Israel. And what we've done is, we've tried to really intensely get into these cases sooner rather than later, have a mediation type format. And basically what we find is, when we have a more in-depth, thorough conversation on the facts of a case involving the medicine and the legal aspects, the likelihood is that we get settlements a lot more than we did previously.
Okay, let's give a visual to the viewers who are watching this. Mm-hmm. Who's sitting at the table?
Well, who's sitting at the table is myself. We're also expanded. We have a very gifted judge named Stanley Green who's going to be doing some of this. But we have 2 experienced malpractice judges doing it in Bronx County. I deal with the municipal hospital systems. I deal with Montefiore, and I deal with Columbia Presbyterian. Bronx Lebanon, while not part of the program, is also a hospital, as St. Barnabas, that is involved with cases in our courthouse. And we sit down with a group of lawyers, with representatives from the various hospitals or their insurers, and we try to make a settlement happen.
Okay, you obviously have the plaintiff's attorney there, am I
We
correct?
do,
Does
we
the
do.
plaintiff come in as well?
The plaintiff can, sometimes does. Very often, people want a chance to sit and tell their side to a judge. Maybe they've lost mom or dad or a loved one, and they feel that by talking to somebody who is in a position of authority, they're unburdening themselves and maybe making a difference that something like this wouldn't happen again to someone else.
Because sometimes it's a matter of pride. They want to make sure that somebody listens to them.
You know, David, the whole malpractice area is really carries an awful emotional sidetrack to it, in the sense that people bring these suits very often because they haven't gotten answers. And perhaps had they been treated differently at the time when something happened, they may not have sought out a lawyer. So there is that emotional component, and we know that from studies around the country.
Doesn't the research show that sometimes if the doctor would have just answered a question or given an extra 5 or 10 minutes, there never would have been a lawsuit?
Well, you know, it's interesting you say that, because the President and Secretary of State Clinton, when they were both in the Senate, sponsored legislation called Sorry Works, which is exactly what you're saying.
Yes.
There is something to be gained by doctors coming forth and saying, look, we didn't get the outcome we had hoped for. We're very sorry about that, giving explanation and sometimes some type of compensation.
You know, sometimes it's just bedside manner. And whether they teach that in medical schools, I mean, I don't really know.
Well, this is an area that I think the medical schools are taking a closer look at. How do you know, this whole issue of patient safety. Anytime you discuss malpractice today, and it's a good thing, the President has insisted upon it, the Governor, Department of Health, even our court system, this grant, carries with it patient safety components. And with that is how you deal with people.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate for a second, because that's what I do here.
Of course.
The initiative was viewed in the New York Times, recently featured in the New York Times. And one of the criticisms of the program was that sometimes the plaintiffs would not be walking away with nearly the type of money they would be walking away with if a jury gave an award. What is the response to that?
Well, I don't know that that's a criticism as much a reality.
Okay.
You know, these cases are being settled sooner rather than later because there's a benefit to the person doing the settling, getting a case completed by paying less money than they would if a jury sat in judgment of it. You know, as you know, being a leading trial lawyer here in the borough, we must settle cases. If we were to try every single case that's in the courthouse, frankly, we'd be sitting here 2 million years from now, still haven't gotten through the inventory. So settlement is a fact of life.
Okay, well, I got a curveball for you.
Okay.
I'm going to wait because we got to take a break.
Fair enough.
We have to take a quick break, but coming up, we will continue hearing more about Judge McKeon's initiatives that are happening right here in the Bronx. We'll be right back.
You know, when I was younger, man, my brother was the one who really took care of me, man.
Is that right?
Hey, he'd wake me up in the morning, get me ready for school, take a shower, make me some breakfast.
Where your brother at now?
Oh, you know, all right. I get lonely, nobody to talk to. I felt like quitting school. He looked at me dead in my eye. He told me, it's not for me. Do it for him.
Give Josh and our class of '08 the boost they need to graduate. Join us at boostup.org.
My name's Brandon. I'm 9 years old, being alcoholic.
Hi, Brandon.
I'll start drinking with the older kids. And whatever they do, I'll do.
Kids who drink before age 15 are 5 times more likely to have alcohol problems when they're adults.
So start talking before they start drinking.
I know we'll start with alcohol. I'm just not sure how it's gonna end.
Low-fat cheese sandwiches on whole wheat bread. Chewy and good for you. Snacks high in calcium help build strong bones, and foods rich in fiber are good for your heart. So you have the power to dominate. Can your food do that? Run, throw, think, eat better. Find out more at smallstep.gov.
Hi, I'm Sean Johnson of the 2008 U.S. Gymnastics team. I'm here with our friends from VeggieTales to say, be a player, get up and play an hour a day.
Besides gymnastics, how do you stay in great shape, Sean?
I love to dance and rollerblade.
Cool.
You don't have to be an Olympian to be a player. Just do the things you already love to do, like jump rope, ride a bike, or even play freeze tag.
Now that's something to flip for.
Well done! For fun ways to get healthy, visit www.smallstep.gov.
Welcome back. I'm your host, David Lesch. We at today's verdict want to hear from you, so send us your questions, comments, or show ideas to davidlesch@bronxnet.org. And by the way, follow us on Twitter. Become a follower. It'd be great. Joining us on today's show is New York Supreme Court Justice McKeon, who is currently supervising approximately 7,500 cases in Bronx County. He's here to talk about how the borough is coping with the $170 million in budget cuts that affected the court system. Once again, Judge, thanks for joining us.
David, again.
Okay, I got that curveball for you with respect to the medical malpractice initiative. Mm-hmm. It's been a concern of mine. It's also been a concern of many other plaintiffs' lawyers who've come before you in these types of initiative. From what I have been told, that there is sometimes a particular hospital that gets the plaintiff's attorney to...
Which is going to remain nameless, okay.
Remains nameless, that gets the plaintiff to commit to a number, but when you end up not settling the case in your chambers or wherever it is that it's conferenced, when it's time for jury selection months later, maybe a year later, whenever it is, the insurance company still holds you to that particular number when that really shouldn't be. What do you say to that criticism?
Well, first of all, we don't let these cases go to trial until we've tried with our last ounce of effort to settle them. So we really don't have that hiatus. Look, the reality is, when people say they'll agree to settle a case for a number, somebody has to pay it. If they don't pay it, then they shouldn't expect for it to be on the table forevermore, and we don't insist on that. Unfortunately, it's less hospitals than there are law firms. As you know, this is a competitive business. Certain firms perhaps try to show that they've gotten an outstanding result in a case with the hope that maybe they'll be used for other cases. I don't think that this is a prevalent practice in the courthouse,
okay.
and we're very, very careful about that. Because not only do we expect people to sit down in good faith and try to settle cases, we expect the hospitals to act in good faith too. We expect them to also come to the table and to provide fair and appropriate compensation, David. Nobody is leaving that courthouse settling a case for a number that's inappropriate to the injuries or the reasons that they're there.
Now, is the program being embraced? Do you find both sides are very happy with the way it's meeting out at this point?
Well, I think they're happy in the sense that, the governor was very instrumental in enacting an obstetrical fund during this past legislative session that was of particular benefit to Montefiore, to Columbia Presbyterian. That particular fund, coupled with the program, they're seeing some relief in the sense that they're not paying these horrible $100+ million malpractice premiums, which affect all of us. I mean, listen, if somebody has been the victim of a malpractice, they deserve justice. Nobody is trying to shortchange them. We're trying to handle these cases more efficiently, effectively, because we believe that there's a societal responsibility on the part of the courts to do that.
Let's switch gears. Let's talk a little bit about the budget cuts.
Right.
Congratulations, by the way, you're the new administrative judge. I'm sure it's a big responsibility, and you're stepping in with all the budget cuts. What are you doing to try and alleviate the pain?
Well, we try to be innovative, David. We try to let people get their cases through the process, to shepherd them through in innovative ways. We've restructured the courts in some fashion. The malpractice is a good example. We have 2 experienced judges doing that. We believe that if we can settle more malpractice cases, the automobile case, the other type of case, can get a trial, whereas these long malpractice cases can occupy a judge for weeks on end. We're doing some innovative things with the automobile type of accident case, which is, the largest inventory of cases in our courthouse. We're going to bring insurance carriers in and handle cases where there's one insurer, one plaintiff, hopefully trying to settle more cases. We have to try to get the best bang we can for the buck, because we have 170 million less bucks here in the state to do justice and make justice come alive for all New Yorkers.
Well, all right, being inventive and trying to do more with less, it's easy to say, and I understand we're giving it a shot. Where does it seem that the courthouse is really lacking the most as a result of the budget cuts? Where is it hitting us the hardest, is really what I'm saying.
I mean, the things that bother me, we've had to reduce our small claims days. That's a special kind of court. It's called the People's Court for a reason. Somebody can come in, have a dispute without a lawyer, get a chance to get justice in a relaxed evidentiary forum. We're now doing that only one night a week.
And what was it? How often was it?
We were doing it 4 nights a week, and we had day sessions too. So that's been a serious cutback. We can't have trials beyond 4:30 because we're being very, very careful with our overtime.
Yeah.
Of course, there's exceptions to everything. We deal with an emergency when we have them. I was at Jacoby Hospital on Friday night to deal with a young lady who had a problem needing an emergency cesarean section, and thankfully that worked out, and she delivered a very healthy child.
The Bronx judges and the Bronx attorneys in the Bronx community have always stepped up. And just very briefly, I want to talk a little about the foreclosure issue that seems to be affecting so many of the Bronxites. What, if anything, can they do in terms of turning to the courthouse?
Well, even though we've had these terrible cuts, we've done some remarkable things in the foreclosure area. We established a Bronx foreclosure center. We have some of the most gifted and skilled entities that deal with this kind of matter, from legal aid down to the Brooklyn Housing and Family Services. We have a suite of rooms in a courtroom on the 6th floor, and I want to give you the number for people who may have a problem and may need it, 718-618-1350. You can call that number, get an appointment. If you're having financial problems, even if you're not in foreclosure, if you have credit problems, if you just want some free advice, we want you to come down. Because unfortunately, there are charlatans out there who've been preying on innocent Bronxites and people who live in the city when they have these kind of problems.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break, but we're going to get some final thoughts from you on the Bronx County Courthouse and what direction we're going. We'll be right back.
When I was younger, man, my brother was the one who really took care of me, man.
Is that right?
Hey, he'd wake me up in the morning, get me ready for school, take a shower, make me some breakfast.
Where your brother at now?
Oh, he Iraq. I get lonely, nobody to talk to. I felt like quitting school. He looked at me dead in my eye, he told me, if not for me, do it for him.
Give Josh and our class of 08 the boost they need to graduate. Join us at boostup.org.
My name's Brandon. In 9 years, I'll be an alcoholic.
Hi, Brandon.
I'll start drinking with the older kids. And whatever they do, I'll do.
Kids who drink before age 15 are 5 times more likely to have alcohol problems when they're adults. So start talking before they start drinking.
I know it'll start with alcohol. I'm just not sure how it's gonna end.
Low-fat cheese sandwiches on whole wheat bread. Chewy and good for you. Snacks high in calcium help build strong bones. And foods rich in fiber are good for your heart. So you have the power to dominate. Can your food do that? Run, throw, think, eat better. Find out more at smallstep.gov.
Hi, I'm Sean Johnson of the 2008 U.S. Gymnastics team. I'm here with our friends from VeggieTales to say, be a player, get up and play an hour a day.
Besides gymnastics, how do you stay in great shape, Sean?
I love to dance and rollerblade.
Cool.
You don't have to be an Olympian to be a player. Just do the things you already love to do, like jump rope, ride a bike, or even play freeze tag.
Now that's something to flip for.
Well done! For fun ways to get healthy, visit www.smallstep.gov.
We're back with Judge Douglas McKean discussing a variety of topics. Right now we're going to talk about my favorite topic, and that's the Bronx County Courthouse and where we're headed. What do you think? Where are we going? Are we moving towards any future plans? What do you think?
Well, I think that we're moving in the right direction. Obviously, when you have less money to utilize, it's always a problem. But we're making up for it, I think, with some innovation. And I have to say with a great deal of cooperation by the bar associations, especially the Bronx Bar. They realize that there's a problem. We can't have the same number of jurors available to us. We're watching every single nickel, but hopefully not at the expense of how justice is affecting the lives of real people here in the Bronx.
Well, I will tell you, because I am in the court all day. I'm in the various courtrooms. I don't notice a difference. There is a feeling that trials are ending earlier. Yes. We're not usually working past 4:30.
Well, they are ending earlier.
You know, they're ending earlier, but I think the same quality of justice is still coming through, and I think that's a credit to you, and that's a credit to the other judges who are in the Bronx County Courthouse.
Well, I appreciate that, but it's also, look, we have a working partnership with the lawyers who come in and represent people within our buildings, the civil, the criminal, housing, wherever the case may be. And without that kind of partnership, without that kind of recognition that we have to pull together, then, you know, we will be undone by this paucity of money.
You know, I'd asked you during the break, and I'm not really quite sure if you have an answer to it, but is the money coming back? Are we going to be able to get some of this back to expand on the programs that we had, to make Small Claims Court 3-4 nights a week again?
Listen, one would always hope it does, but I think, in my mind, I'm restructuring for the future without the money coming back. I think that's the more prudent way to approach it. I think over the long term, we have to assume we're going to have to do more with less. If it comes back, all the better. We can do some wonderful things then again, but we're going to try to do wonderful things even though we have less money to try to do them with.
Okay, now, I understand that you may be doing some wonderful things at this station again. Is that true? What are your thoughts there?
I'm gonna leave the shows to young fellows like you who do such a great job at doing them. You know, we may do an occasional special from time to time on something that may be of interest to the Bronx,
maybe ask the administrative judge, maybe something interesting like that.
Well, listen, you know, you never know, David, but you're doing enough interesting topics and bring enough talent to the station on the legal stuff that without me, they'd be far ahead anyway.
Okay, one final thought to the Bronx side who's watching right now and has a legal issue, doesn't know where to turn. What would you give as advice?
Well, that number that I gave you before also...
I can give it to the viewers right now. That's a 718-618-1350. That's the Bronx Residential Foreclosure Center.
That's it, and it's also a court help desk. You can go there. Another great place to go is the Legal Referral Service of the Bronx Bar Association. They do a wonderful job. They marry people with lawyers who have specialization. And, you know, I'll leave the marrying part to Harold Price Farringer, who did a wonderful show about that with you. But we do. We try to connect client with lawyer, and they do a wonderful job at it.
And Judge, whether you come back and do your own show, whatever, you promise you're going to come back and do our show.
Listen, you know, that's first and foremost.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure having you.
It's been my pleasure, and congratulations on your new show, David.
Well, that's all for tonight. It's time to deliberate. I'd like to thank our guest, Judge Douglas McKean, for joining us, and of course, you for watching. Remember, if there's a legal issue or topic you would like to see on the show, email me at davidlesch@BronxNet.org. And until we see you again, always remember, know your rights, know your issues, reach a verdict. We'll see you next time.